Welcome to Pencils with Erasers, hosted by Danny Sully Sullivan. Get ready for a wild ride as we bring you the untamed and unbelievable stories from the trading floors of America, both on and off. Buckle up for an unparalleled journey into the dynamic world of finance. Without further ado, let's dive into the extraordinary tales with Sully.
Welcome to this week's episode of Pencils with Erasers. We are very, very lucky to have a special guest. I'm Ann McCarthy. My co-host is Danny Sullivan, and our special guest is Mike Day, producer, film producer, and director.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Nice to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, nice to see you again too. It's nice to see you this way instead of chit-chatting on the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Mike, really quick, where you living now?
I live in Los Angeles. So I'm just right north of the city.
Okay, so you're in LA, so you're right in the middle of everything.
Yep. Yeah, right in the heart of it all.
Okay,
I haven't been to LA in ages, like years and years. I'm sure it's changed drastically since I've been there.
I mean, it feels like it changes every year. There's just always something. Yeah, it's just constantly evolving.
I bet.
Okay,
oh my God.
So, Mike, let me ask you this, if you don't mind. Where are you from, Mike? Is LA your town or?
No, I moved up to LA about 10, 15 years ago. I should double check that. But yeah, I moved out from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I grew up out in the country.
All right.
Oh, you're not too far from me.
Oh, yeah, where you at?
I'm in Jersey, but I think of Pittsburgh like the East Coast. Like
yeah, we're like brother sisters.
Northeast, yeah. So it's like we love Pennsy. Like we're always down in Pennsylvania for something. There's always so much fun. There's like tons of fun things to do there, and the people are great. Pittsburgh fans. There's nothing like Pittsburgh fans.
No, they're the best. And
wow, like really, they really are. They're the greatest. So I think Pittsburgh's a great town. So it makes sense that you're from there.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
And if you said that to a Philly fan, I think they would just with that comment. Okay, here we go, Mike. So, what inspired you to be a director? How did it all start? What was that big moment when you said, "Hey, I belong in Tinseltown"?
Yeah, it was back when the movie started going to DVD, and that started becoming the big thing. I got my first DVD player, and I got my first DVD. I could only afford a DVD player. I didn't have enough money for a DVD, and I was saving up for the DVD player. So my dad got me the DVD. He's like, well, go pick out a DVD. And so I got The Matrix because I only saw part of it at my cousin's house. And so I finished it. I was like, wow, the movie's awesome. Then that's when I saw like all these behind the scenes, which I've never seen before. And so now I was just watching like all the VFX behind the scenes, like on the shootings, like on the sets and everything, and how they did all that, the bullet time. And I was like, man, like these are people getting paid to do this. Like this looks like they're just playing all day long. This is insane. And so then I just kept watching it over and over again. I was like, I want to do that. And I was like, not knowing anything about movie making, not knowing like that was even a possibility. I was just like, yeah, I'm going to do that one day. And then just stuck to it and haven't stopped since.
And I'm going to guess you were in your teens.
Yeah. I was like 14, 15.
Okay. Oh, that early. Okay. And again,
it's pretty cool knowing at that age what your long-term goal is. That's unusual.
Yeah, I know. It's and then it came true. It's even crazier.
That's you were determined. I think that's great. What a testament to your parents. Did they foster that?
No. So my dad always helps. My dad was a school teacher, and at a different school, and they're like, he went to his guidance counselor. He's like, hey, so my son wants to go to film school. Like, how do I make him not do that?
Yeah, really?
Yeah. And so
that's funny.
So the guidance counselor's like, well, he's like, that horrible idea. You can't do that. He's like, let him get it out of the system. He's like, let him go to school freshman year. He'll get some other classes under his belt that will go towards another degree anyway. Like, let him just see that, it's not for him or whatever. And so then, they sent, and then I also wanted to go to either New York or LA for school. And so my dad's like, no, he's like, well, if we're going to stay in film school, it's got to be somewhere locally because, you know, it's going to be too expensive to go to New York or LA. And so I found, and so also the same guidance counselor that my dad knew had the school in Pittsburgh called Point Park University, and they just started a digital film program. It was like
Wow.
on the second or third year. And so I applied and got in. And then my dad always says, like, well, go for 1 year. Then after that, we'll reevaluate, you know, if you want to go somewhere else. But I think he really meant reevaluate the actually staying for film. And then, so I think he thought I'd like go to another school for a different degree then or something. But then, like, after year one, I was like, yeah, no, this is great. I love it here. I'm fine here. I met a bunch of friends. We're out filming every weekend, and I was just having a blast. And so then my parents were like, all right, I guess he's staying in film school. We'll see how this plays out. And then the funny thing is, like, I graduated, and then within 2 or 3 months, I had my first job on a set, and then I've been working ever since.
Okay, real quick, Mike, what did you do? What was your first gig?
Well, my first gig was a favor to a friend. They were shooting downtown Pittsburgh, and it was like Christmas time, like a few days before we had Christmas break. And he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, we have a van that's downtown for the shoot tomorrow. It can't get towed." He's like, "Can you just watch it all night long?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." He's like, "Oh, but you're not gonna get paid." I was like, "That's fine." He's like, also, you can't turn the van on and get heat. He's like, we can't lose any of the gas. So just bring a lot of sweatshirts and just, you'll sit there with the car all night long. I was like, okay. He's like, I promise you do that. I was like, I'll get you a paying job. I swear to God. I was like, okay. So I took all my sweatshirts, jackets, blankets, went down and just kind of hung out and then, you know, walked around and saw some homeless people, some crazy people. It was a weird night. And then just stuck it out. And then, yeah, a few months later, he called me and he's like, hey, I got that paying job for you. And then that was, yeah, on My Bloody Valentine 3D, which
That's
like
a good story. I like that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That reminds me of when my husband was offered a job at Barstool back in 2007 from Dave Portnoy. And he was like, I was 8 months pregnant. And he's like, you got to come work for me. You know, I'll take what you were writing and we'll merge them. My husband's like, my wife's pregnant with her second kid. You live in a van. Like,
yeah.
So he, you know, and lo and behold, 17 years later, he comes back and like here, you know, here we are still with Dave. But
yeah, that's
always
awesome.
trust the guy in the van unless he's driving around trying to get the kid to come in it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, Mike, before we get to the second question, just do you have any like story to share that just was crazy for you to maybe in your, you know, 18 to 25, something that had to do with the entertainment world where, I don't know, I don't want to put any ideas in your mind, just something crazy. I can give you a few examples, but I'd rather have you. Anything crazy that you went, oh my gosh?
I mean, it's just like, there's so many crazy things like every day. I mean, it's just crazy being on set because like you're literally blowing stuff up. Like they're playing with real dynamite and like you're sitting on set and like, hey, stand right here at this line and you can get a good view. And then you stand there and like all like the debris falls and hits that line exactly like assigns. And it's just, so there's like always crazy stuff like that. And just like a lot of late nights and just like sometimes like, sometimes I'd go to set or work one day. I was an ops PA and like they had a plane ticket for me. They're like, hey, so the one crew guy, he had to fly back to London last night. He took a flight out of DC, which is 4 hours away. They're like, we don't know what car he had or where it's at. There's just a tire with a key on it. Go find it. And so I flew to DC and just had to just scour the parking lot and find a key. And then finally found the car and then drive right back to Pittsburgh all in a day. So, I mean, there's just always like crazy, it's like, you just never know what's going to happen. And then you're just like, yeah, I mean, on Dark Knight Rises, we get to work one day and they're like, hey, Tom Hardy's sick today. And we're like, okay. They're like, he needs chicken noodle soup. Go get like gallons of it. Where get to get it? I'm like, all right. So I'm going around. It's also like 8 o'clock in the morning. No one's serving chicken noodle soup. So like I'm just pounding on like any place that might sell soup. I finally get to a Panera Bread. They're not even open yet. I'm just like pounding on the door. I'm like, and the guy, some like kid that just like opened up. He's like, hey, what's up? I'm like, hey, I need to get some chicken noodle soup. Do you guys serve that for breakfast when you open? He's like, no, we don't make that till like the afternoon. I was like, okay, well, what's it going to take? And I just like pulled out cash. I was like, $200? Would that make it right now? He's like, yeah, they'll do it. I was like, all right. He goes in and just starts making chicken noodle soup. And then I rushed to set and took it right to Tom Hardy and he ate it, then put his Bane mask on and went into the scene.
Wow, that's wild. We always play the scene. One of the guys that was a family friend of ours, he played for the Steelers. And he's in, like, when the guy's singing the anthem, yeah, I'm sure you're very familiar with it. They show all the
Yeah.
players in the back.
I
And
was
like,
standing right there on the stadium, on the field.
I'm sure, yeah. And like, we always, like, whenever like they go to Willie, it's Willie Cologne. So whenever they show to Willie, you can kind of see in the background. We always pause it, like, like, look, there he is. Like, and everybody goes
Yeah.
wild whenever they show it. It's like that one pause it on it. But
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is just such a great city. And I remember when they were doing that, it was just huge. So that must have been a fun set. So now when you do
Yeah.
a set like that, a scene like that, as a director, when they blow stuff up and everything, how do you capture other scenarios as it's happening at the same time? Like, do you take somebody else and have them specifically filming the opposite direction just for reaction?
No, I mean, on something like that, I'd say very few cases where you're going to get this, you're going to want that reaction shot. Like if you look at actually Dark Knight, the sequel, like the second one, there's a scene where Heath Ledger is walking away from a hospital and they blow it up and they wanted to see him the whole time. So in that scenario, yeah, they'd have cameras getting him and, the explosion, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, mostly on stuff like that, they're focused on getting as many cameras on the action. Like they might put like a C camera, D camera, like that's like just to get the reaction. But if you're not actually seeing the explosion in the shot with them, it's not worth getting their reaction. I mean, unless it's something like that Heath Ledger one. So it'd be it's going to be very specific as to when and where, like how where they're going to put the cameras. But that's all mapped out.
They use those like shocking reactions when they see these huge things, and they use them for another scene in a movie where they want someone to have like a wild reaction to something. Because like it's almost like, you could double dip a little bit, right? Do you do that a lot?
Yeah. No, I mean, not necessarily, because at the end of the day, like especially if it's an explosion, you want to get as many angles of that explosion as you possibly can, and you're only going to get one chance to do it. So you want as much angles coverage of that, and then they're acting. They have to, that's their job. React.
Super cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So Mike, tell me about your first so-called journey to your first film that you directed. How did that come about?
Yeah. So I was actually I remember I was in New York City. I was on this movie, Rare Objects, the Katie Holmes movie. And I remember it was being produced by this New York company, Yale, and they reached out and said, hey, we're looking for a script for low budget, a contained script with minimum cast for someone else to direct or something. I forget who it was for. And I had this script that my friend wrote, and it checked off all the boxes. But I also knew I was kind of holding on to that. Like, well, if I'm ever going to get a chance to direct like my first feature, like this is probably going to be it. It's mainly one location with like 4 cast members. It doesn't get any simpler than that, but it also had such a good story too. And that's like a rare thing, a good combination like that. So I was like, oh man, I don't want to give up this script. So I just texted like, yeah, I got a script that I'm looking to direct that fits that profile. And I sent it. And then like, I really didn't hear much. And then a couple months later, they're like, hey, that movie you sent, like that you want to direct, like, you think you can do that for like a really low budget? I said, oh yeah, 100%. And they're like, okay. And so they're like, let's see if we can get some, like, I'm a first time director though. I mean, I've done shorts and stuff and music videos, but my first time feature. And so they're like, well, let's see if we got to talk to cast first. And then basically they need to interview you to make sure they'll do a movie that you're directing since it's your first time. So they got Francesca Eastwood lined up and Milo Gibson lined up and basically set up interviews with me. And basically, like, they're just kind of vetting to make sure that they trust my vision and that, like, they think I'm, competent enough to pull off directing my first feature. Those 2 meetings went great and could have gone better. And we both interpreted the script the same way with the tone and the comedy and the thriller aspects. And so walked away and like, yeah, let's do it. And so they told Gail, like, yeah, like, we approve of Mike. And so then they're like, great, we're making it then. And we just move forward. It was cool. It's like almost too easy. It's crazy.
That was Clawfoot?
Yeah, that was Clawfoot. And that's one that just came out a few weeks ago.
What is the name of it?
Clawfoot, like the tub.
It seemed like you went out, so I wanted to make sure everybody can hear it.
Clawfoot.
Yeah. And it was released. The release date was
on the 19th of July.
July 19th, Clawfoot. That's pretty cool. I love that.
And yeah, it's like on all VOD platforms like Apple, Amazon, Google, like AT&T, Spectrum, those ones, and then it will be available on a streaming service at some point, like a free one later.
Very cool. So now in hindsight, when you go back and look at it, did it come out exactly how you wanted it to?
I always kind of had my expectations curbed a little bit, knowing the budget size. It was like, okay, well, if I can at least pull, I've always kind of just set marks, like as long as I can finish on budget and on time, that's all I care about. Like in my back of my head, I had an idea of what I wanted the movie to be and like how I saw it. Because like there's a few people I was talking to, like, well, how do you like there's just a lot of like weird dialogue. I was like, yeah, but if it's done in a dry way, like in a dry comedic way, it would be really like this really funny then. Like, oh yeah, if it's done that way, like, if it all comes together that way, then yeah, it could work. So I was just like trying to get one milestone at a time, and it was just like, yeah, okay, I made the schedule, I made the budget, got the edit done, everything. But then when I put it all together, like it actually turned out exactly how I envisioned it. Which is crazy because like, yeah, and I don't know how, because like, I mean, we came in just like a hair under budget, which then we had to pay for some L&D, we broke a window or something, so we had just enough to cover that. But but yeah, it literally just like, that's what's so crazy. I've never, like, in all the shorts, I've always, I finished a short film or music video. It's like, okay, I didn't get exactly what I wanted. I just compromised on this or sacrificed that. But I couldn't believe, like, on this feature, I was like, I literally got all the scenes I wanted. It played out exactly how I thought I would. The music's perfect. It was edited, like, I'm so happy with it, and so is the cast, and like I couldn't be prouder. And I just hope everyone enjoys it as much as I enjoyed making it.
What a testament to the actors and actresses you just gave. Wow. That's huge. Can you give us a little bit of what it's about?
Yeah, so it's just it's like a little thriller aspect where there's this woman, she's a trophy wife, she's at home. It just kind of starts out in the middle of her day, and then all of a sudden there's a contractor at the door. And like the first like kind of quarter of the movie, it's very, you're like, what the hell's going on here? Why? And like, he's there renovating a bathroom. She lets him in, even though you're like, why would you let him in the house? You don't know why he's there, and you can just tell something's going on. But then as the movie progresses, the layers start to peel off, and you're like, oh, there's something going on here between both of them. They both have a connection. They both have skeletons in her closet, and then like they're both just kind of playing cat and mouse. They kind of reveal what the truth is behind what's going on, and then eventually it all comes to head, and shit hits the fan, and it turns into a wild ride.
Oh, that sounds great. I have, with 3 kids, I don't get a chance to see as much as I would like to. So I have, you keep a rolling list of things you want. You just move that to the top of my list.
Perfect. Yeah.
Honest to God, I can't wait. Clawfoot, and it streams everywhere. I'm gonna make sure that I put it out there. That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Mike, how was it working with the cast in Clawfoot?
Oh my God, it was amazing. They are so great to work with. So I mean, like, let's start with Francesca. Like, I mean, she just embodied that character like so well. And like, you'll see the first, like, it's like almost like 2 performances that she does, because the first like quarter of the movie, she's very reserved, and you're like, what's going on here? Like, she doesn't have much emotion. Then as things become revealed, like, you start to see like the layers, like, her shields come down, and you start to see who the character really is, and you start to understand why she was acting that way. And just that transformation, she does so much with her eyes. It's amazing to watch her work. And you could just, it's like you get goosebumps watching. It's so impressive. And then same with like Milo. Milo had to play this, asshole contractor that's also charming. So, and he just kind of towed that line so well, where like everything he said, you're like, oh, that was a dig at me, but he said it with a smile, so maybe he didn't mean it that way. And so he just did such a great job of just kind of making the audience question, what's this guy really up to? Like, is he really just a weird guy that's kind of charming, that doesn't, or is he really sinister? I mean, he just did so well with that.
And that's Milo Gibson and Francesca Eastwood, Clint Eastwood's daughter and Mel Gibson's son.
Yeah, exactly.
They got some good mentors growing up.
Yeah, I mean, talk about getting a front row seat for like the best talent in the world. Like they had it. Like Francesca, she was telling me, one of her earliest memories is actually just being in the editing room when her dad was editing $1 Million Baby. Like, that's kind of one of her earliest memories. I was like, that's crazy. That's awesome. Can you imagine?
Is her mother Frances Fisher? Who's her mother?
Yeah, her mother is Frances Fisher.
I mean, my God, right? Like
one day. Yeah, she was on set one day. She come on set, and she had like this really old school retro Titanic crew shirt on. I was like, is that your mom's? Because her mom was in Titanic. She's like, yeah, I steal all her swag. I was like, that's so awesome.
That's awesome. They're both, I mean, what amazing lineage that is, right? Like,
yeah,
I love that. Explains with red hair. Right?
And the funny thing about Milo is, he actually really wasn't going to go into acting. He went to school and became an electrician, and then just like all of a sudden he kind of like felt like maybe I do want to act, and then just started doing it. And then it's like, oh yeah, like obviously you're really good at this too. Maybe you should do this instead.
And then, honest to God, if you have a question, it's like, geez, I'm not sure how I should do this. I wish I had somebody I could call to tell me how I should, get this point across to my viewers. Well, I don't know, maybe my dad or my mom, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah. And that's what like made it so nerve-wracking for me. I'm like, oh my God, these guys.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't, like, this is so stupid. They shouldn't listen to anything I say. Like, they're like, they know better than I would at this point. They grew up around the greatest actors of all time and directors. It's like, I don't even know, like, I didn't know it was so, I don't know, I went in like,
what it is? Like, you know what the words are from Mike Myers and whatever. I'm not worthy. I'm not
worthy. Yeah, exactly.
Well, think about this. They would have, if they didn't have faith in you, if Mel Gibson, Clint Eastwood, Francis Fisher, if they didn't have faith in you, they would never have let their kids touch that project.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So that's what, I guess that's a good sign. And that's the thing, like, me and Francis Fisher now, like, she got my number through Francesca at some point. So now she texts me all the time, like, and she's like the sweetest woman. Like, she's so sweet. And I love her to death. She's amazing.
Do you ever think you'd be saying that?
No, like, that's what's so crazy. It's like, I never in a million years thought I'd be like texting with like royalty, like this. It's like, and just catching up on stuff. I'm like, oh, wow, okay. This is so crazy.
Yeah, you don't have that longevity in an industry like that unless you're
right.
You're great at your craft, but you're also a good person. Like good people, loyalty is what keeps you around, right? Like you're
100%.
So that's a testament to the fact that they want to be around you, like it's like. So that's awesome. Good for you.
Mike, how do you balance your creative vision with say budget constraints? How do you?
It's interesting because like that, and like I think anyone that ever gets put in that box, they kind of always end up saying the same thing. It always benefits to be put into the budget constraints, like because then once you have all the gadgets and toys and all the money in the world, like all of a sudden then you just start it becomes something else. But like if you're forced to like work within a lower budget and like say, oh, I don't have enough money for like 2 cameras or like all the extra gear or the jib or whatever, you then start to think creatively, okay, well, what's the essence of this scene? Like, what's the important thing? What do I need the viewers to see? And then like, you then once you start tackling it that way, I don't know, it just becomes more authentic because now you're actually shooting for what you actually need as opposed to having all the cameras in the world, all the, fun toys and other stuff. And now you're just shooting just to shoot. It's like sometimes you overkill. That's a little overkill. And then you kind of miss what the essence of it was. And so I don't know. So like, I don't mind being put in that box. I mean, yeah, sometimes I would wish there was a little bit more money to do bigger things, but ultimately in the end, it always works out and you get exactly what you need out of it. And like there was one time, what was it like in Clawfoot, we ran really late on this action sequence. It was like we're doing a night shoot and like they're running through the house and like so we had to be like, with the action stuff and stunts, you have to be a lot more precautious. It takes a lot more time because of all safety. And by the time we got through everything we needed, there was still a scene where she's supposed to be Francesca's dragging Milo's body through the house. And it had it all mapped out. I was like, okay, because we start upstairs, drag him down the hallway. She's going to drag him down the stairs. His head's going to hit every stair. And then we're going to make a fun little thing out of it. And then we just ran out of time. And so I was like, okay, well, we'll do it next week. Like, we'll shoot this, at the next night shoot, we'll kick it down, do it later. I was like, no, it's like, that doesn't make, like, we only have 14 shoot days. Like, we don't have the luxury to kick stuff to film later. It's like, we got to figure this out tonight. I was like, you know what? The only thing we need to show is her dragging this body across the house, from where she knocked him out to where she's going to tie him up. We can do that in one shot. I was like, let's just lock off the camera right here in the kitchen and then like empty frame. And then we hear the dragging and then we see her just struggle in one long shot, drag across. And it's hilarious. And it cracks me up. It's one of my favorite shots now in the whole movie. And I never would have got that shot unless I was forced to figure out how to pull this off in one shot.
Oh, cool.
So now when you speak about that, it's like Danny and I were talking about this earlier. How do you collaborate with your crew to bring that vision to life? Like, how do you convey exactly what you want to them? I mean, obviously you're working with pros. I mean, but like you have this idea in your head. How do you get it to them?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just me drawing a stick figure, like and like in a box. It'd be like, they're doing this, and then like, oh, okay, like I'm not a good drawer, but like sometimes it's just as rudimentary as that, and other times it's just like I mean, also I'm a huge collaborator too. Like, I mean, they're all there, and I want them to be a part of this filmmaking process too. So it's like, especially like the DP, production designer, and like the producer, it's like, well, hey, like, what am I like? More, I want input. So like, they bring a lot to the table too, and kind of help me, guide it to the right way too. So like, I love to lean on my team, because I mean, the more the more we all lean on each other, like the better we all work together. I feel like, and it's, I don't know, we've worked really good together when it's like, it feels more collaborative, and we all kind of have an opinion and voice and have a say. And so I like to let everyone, speak up when they can.
That's fantastic. I bet you iron out a lot of that, like you were saying in the initial interviews. You see if you are compatible with their dynamic and the way they think, right? I'm sure that's a lot of things you iron out ahead of time.
Yeah, because ultimately at the end of the day, and like, I mean, the other person, I've been referencing Adam Sandler lately. At a certain point, you just want to make movies with your friends. Like it's still a job, but like you want to surround yourself with the best that all know what they're doing. And yeah, and it, like, so I know Adam Sandler does that. Like, he just makes his movie with the same people over and over again, and they're just out there having fun. And like, that's kind of like what happened on Clawfoot. It was a lot of people. Like, my editor was someone I went to college with, Kevin. Same with the camera operator, the DP, the director of photography. He's a neighbor of mine that I know for a couple of years, and we've been looking to do something together. And my wife is a production designer. Her friends were under her group, so it really was just like this big family that we all really knew each other really well already going in. And there's a few new faces, but they quickly gelled. And so it's just like, felt like a family affair, and just felt like we were at summer camp, and it was just so much fun.
So we just tied that into our podcast, Pencils with Erasers. Because that's what we like, Danny initially started this podcast because it's about the trading floor and bringing people on, and how did you get to the trading floor? And the common line through it all, it seems like, it's who you know and what families you trust. And it's this guy, oh, my uncle knows this kid. And so it seems like, you just tied it into Pencils with Erasers for us.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because like, speaking of that, like, everyone's always like, oh, like the Nepo babies or, whatever. It's like, but I mean, how many people follow in their parents' footsteps all the time? Like, my parents are teachers, it's like, there's so many people in my family that are teachers. And it's just like my uncle's a lawyer, his daughter's a lawyer. It's like, as like you kind of are like, that's just something that I feel like sometimes is in their blood. It's like, yeah, like it becomes a family affair. Like they like doing it. They grew up with it. They like it too. Yeah. Why not try to do that?
That's exactly me and Danny. I mean, my dad was a specialist and a trader, and his dad was a trader. Like I can only speak for myself, but I idolized my dad. So it was, it's nice to have that. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Mike, just take one step back. Is it really important to have, the same crew working for the most part with you, with the movies you do? The movies you have.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it so much easier because then you just kind of have a shorthand. Like everyone, like, from like, again, like my wife's a production designer. She already knows my style and like things I'm looking for, and she knows what I like, what I won't like. And so that makes it easy where it's like, so she only ever like, so I can just lean on her to know she's doing her job. And like, it just makes it so much easier. And then same with like, the editor, Kevin, like we went to school together. Like he's edited all my short films. He's done everything I've done at this point. He's edited everything. So he knows what I like, how I do it. And so when I sit down with him, it's like, it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like we're hanging out, what we like to do anyway. We'll have a beer, we'll finish editing and have a beer, and just keep hanging out as friends then. It's just, right. So yeah, it just makes it nice because like everyone's strengths and weaknesses, how you can help them and how they're going to help you. And you just know like how everyone works and operates. And it just makes it so much easier than having to figure out those personalities. Because when you're on a movie, it's a very short and fast-paced thing, and with a lot of long hours. So like, especially on these low-budget indies, like you have 2 to 3 weeks prep time max. You're shooting for 3 to 4 weeks max, and you're wrapping for a week. So the whole, oh no, you're doing 2 months with these people, but you're doing minimum 12 to 14-hour days just nonstop. And so you're like, yeah, like you either have to get along or not. And so once you find that group that clicks, you just want to keep with them because, yeah, we understand how this works. We can just roll on to the next set. Like, I like how you work. You like how I work. This is fun. This is easy.
Okay. Really quick question going off script here, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Tell us about the movie that if I'm not mistaken, you've already filmed called The Fog of War. Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah. So yeah, that one we just shot. Oh, sorry.
The trailer is awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That one's exciting. So that one's like a World War II espionage thriller. It was actually interesting. The writer kind of wrote it based off it's inspired by a true story of something that really happened from his hometown, which is really interesting. That there was like spies, like Nazi spies in their hometown in America. Or no, I'm sorry, not America. He's from London. He's from Europe, so it was over in Europe. But we said it in America, and so it just kind of changed that aspect of it. But yeah, so it's this espionage thriller where this soldier goes home to meet with his fiance's family, and before he goes, he's given a mission like, "Hey, there's something going on in this town. We don't know what, but there's a mole. Since you're going there, we're gonna have you undercover and figure it out." And so he's like, "No, I'm going to meet my family. Like, I'm not an agent. I'm not a spy, whatever." They're like, "Well, this is the best option we have at this point if we want to win the war." So it's like kind of like all on him now. So now he's going to meet the family. He's looking for spies. He doesn't know what's going on. And then there's just a lot of weird stuff happening around him where he's like, okay, it could be this person, it could be that person. And meanwhile, he's just trying to impress, the in-laws at the same time. So it's a really nice, like, cat and mouse too, like little thriller. And we have John Cusack in it, and he's just amazing to work with and so great on screen. And yeah, that's going to be another fun one that comes out later this year.
Okay. I love the way you filmed it. Like, I don't know if it's the way it came over on my screen or it's like, I can't put my finger on it, but I thought that like the colors, everything was just beautiful. Like it was really I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I give all the credit. Yeah, that's my DP, Dean. Like, yeah, I mean, he just did a great job lighting everything, and then him and Neil or the operators too, and they did such a beautiful job filming it. And yeah, I mean, he was so meticulous. Like, I know Dean, like every weekend, like we was just drawing up all his notes on how to shoot each scene. Like he like really did his homework and research, and like he would send me his list. He's like, okay, when we shoot this scene, I think we should get these angles from this shot. And then like he just had it all mapped out of all that. He really did a great job on that.
Yeah, it really comes through in the trailer. When you have a movie, like what do you hope audiences take away from it, other than the obvious? Like if it's sad, you want them to cry and tug at their heartstrings. If it's funny, you want them like repeating those one-liners. But what do you hope they take away from it, from like overall?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's more of that actually more than anything. Like, okay. I just love watching movies, and I just want people to love the movies I make. Like, I just want it to be a fun ride for them, where they just go on a roller coaster of emotions and walk away being like, "Hey, that was fun. I didn't mind wasting an hour and a half, 2 hours on that." Like, I mean, there's some messages in there if you want to take what you want out of it. But at the end of the day, like I never want to be like have like my film have such a strong message that's what it's about. Like I like mine just to be entertaining at that. That's what I just want to make entertaining films more than anything. Something that my friends and family like, oh, that was fun. I hope I'll share that with someone else. They should check that out. That's ultimately what I'd like to have happen.
That's great.
Yeah,
Mike. Again, what's the what's the best advice you've ever given to someone, when it comes to the industry? It could be someone that wants to be a director, producer, or all the above. What's the best advice?
Yeah. And this is advice someone else told me, or like this is someone else told me, and now I tell people this too. It's like getting the job is the job is in today's world. It's like you have to do the work to get the work. And so it was like, no one's going to just like, hey, you want to be a director? Great. Here's your shot. I had to go, like, for the past 5-6 years, I was directing like shorts every weekend. I did like 50 some episodes of a web series. I was doing music videos whenever I got a chance. I was like, I mean, I'm surprised I still have friends at this point of how much I, asked them to do for me. And, so, and that's the thing is like, it's all that work is what pays off in the end. It's like, it's not sitting around waiting for like the great script to hit your lap. That's the other thing too, is like everyone's always looking for the great script. Write it then, like do the work yourself to get the work. And I think that really rings true for me. And I can't preach that enough to anybody. It's like doing the work is getting the job is the job. And that means doing the work to get the work.
Or you could add too, make sure you have chicken soup on you every week.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you mentioned something that I find that's intriguing to me. You've mentioned getting the script. And I know because I've read it that you're working with Danny on a script, and I love his script. I can relate. It resonated at so many different spots for me for so many different reasons. And I guess because I've worked on the trading floor for over 20 years, like the sounds, the smells, the yelling, sweating, you know, like the highs, the lows, all of it. So Danny's script, I think, is just outstanding. And the fact that you're the one that he's collaborating with is just, I hope you two talk about it. Like, will you guys be willing to talk about it here?
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Oh,
100%.
please do, because I want
Yeah.
everybody to know, because I think this is fantastic.
And I think what blows me away more than anything is like, you know, like I said, like, he's from the finance world, like the trader, he's not a screenwriter yet. He pumped out such a great script. I'm like, holy shit,
It's
like
so
this is crazy.
It
Like
is
it doesn't make
so good. And the fact that
doesn't make
you're
any
the one
sense.
that's going to be doing it with him is just, honest to God. I please tell everybody what it is. I don't know which one of you want to do it, but it's not mine to do, but I just had to say, because it's just such a great, it's going to be a great movie.
Well, yeah, I'll let Danny. Yeah, because you wrote it. I mean, yeah, this is your baby. I'd love to hear you.
Yeah, I'll tell you the bullet points, but love to hear your opinion on how you and I want to go forward doing this together. But basically, it's about an Irish family, the Farrells, and the Mr. Farrell started on the Midwest Stock Exchange, now called the Chicago Stock Exchange, packs his family up, and well, I forgot probably one of the most important parts. They adopted a black girl in the early to mid 60s. So back to Mr. Farrell, he sees an opportunity to move to the Philadelphia Stock Exchange, and that's where it all begins. Mickey watches her father, what the business does to him physically and mentally, and probably more importantly, how it affects her mother. And, and Anne could agree that, again, it can be tough on a marriage, if back then at least. So she does not want to go on the floor. She is completely anti-floor. And she gets invited from her brother for invite to the Philly floor, and next thing you know, it just took one visit, and she goes, "I'm in." That's it. So it just starts from there. Lots of ups and downs. I've got some great trading scenes in there. Nothing complicated for the viewers because we wanted to stay away from that. Easy to follow, and it's really about the father, the sons, and the sister Mickey. That's her name in the movie. And then last but not least, she goes to the Chicago to work on the CBOE and becomes one of the best traders in the S&P 500 pit. And she decides because the floor is coming to an end, she decides to start a hedge fund. And that's where it starts to get really, well, actually it's been pretty good up to that point too, but then it just gets more exciting after she starts her own hedge fund. So that was kind of long-winded, but it didn't give away that much. So go ahead, Mike.
I was saying, yeah, it's just a great story about this girl Mickey, and like as she navigates her way, not just through the business world, but like also in her family life, because there's so much heart to it, which is so great. It's like, like Danny said, it's like she's adopted, so it's like she's also just trying to find her place in the family too, and like we're like they all get along great and everything, but she still feels like an outsider. And now not only there, but then also on the floor too. She's an African American on the trading floor, female. She just has so many obstacles to overcome, but she's just so driven. Just because, again, like it's in her blood, even though even though she's not really, that's not how the Farrell blood in her, it's still in her blood, and like she just can't help it, and she just falls in love with it, and it's just a fun journey to watch her rise through the ranks, and like while she's dealing with heartbreak and family issues and things like that as well.
Yeah, and
dynamic between the family members. It's I connected to the story so many different ways. A, because I was a woman on Wall Street, and B, because I have an adopted son, and C, because I have a Mick and I have a Bridget. Like I was like I connected with this movie on so many levels. But the scenes that he wrote about the trading scenes, like I was telling him, I could feel the anxiety when he was going into a crowd. Like it was a roller coaster. It was just everywhere. And I think that you guys are going to capture the essence of this movie so well when it comes to the family dynamic, the trading floor, just everything. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ann. I'd like to just share this really quick because it's really important. What I compare this to, and that is Yellowstone. So Yellowstone is basically, well, I should say Yellowstone, then I should say, whenever I ask someone, what is Yellowstone about? And I'd say, tell me what Yellowstone, give me one good answer, what you think it's about. And I get answers like all over the map. It's about Wyoming or Montana. What is it? I should know that. Yellowstone's
Wyoming.
What is it, Wyoming? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
It's Wyoming, yeah.
Wyoming. It's about houses. Horses and cows or lassoing and I'm trying to think of another one. But really what Yellowstone's all about is the ranch. That's what Yellowstone is. It's the ranch. And then what happens, what Taylor Sheridan does is starts at the ranch and then it just blossoms out with all the storylines. Well, that's how I'm comparing the opening bell to is, the floor is the ranch and then the storylines blossom out. So it's not going to be an hour and a half, 2 hours on the floor, just like it's not an hour, or I should say during the TV series, like it's all on the ranch. They have storylines going in all different directions. And that's my goal. It is about, obviously my goal is that the floor is the main character, just like the ranch is the main character of Yellowstone. And then I just take it from there. So I'd like to share that with everyone.
It's such a good idea. How do you think people are going to respond to the film?
Like, I think you're gonna love it. I mean, it's, whenever you see like a high octane, like financial thriller, like something like, the Wolf of Wall Street, those, it's like, you can't just help but fall in love with that world, that universe that's been created on screen. And you just want to just like dive in and just, throw all your money at it, on a stock or whatever. It's like, and that's kind of, I think, what will happen with this is like, we're going to create this world and this universe of just these stock traders and this high energy. And so the other thing that's really cool is like, it's a time period one. This is not present day. This is back when the floor was still happening. And so I think people are going to see something that they've been missing. And, there's going to be a lot of nostalgia with that as well. And I think it's just going to be a fun ride for them all to kind of go through and really enjoy it.
Oh, I totally think so. My husband and I were just watching 48 Hours. It just happened to be on TV this morning. And like, it's just those little tiny things that you haven't seen since 1985 or 86 or 87. Like it's just the hold button flashing, like it's crazy. It just how you those little tiny things that you just never paid attention to, that when they see it, they just stand out. So the trading floor is going to have, I can't imagine how many things are going to be, people are going to be like, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that.
And what I feel another attraction is just when it comes to the age of the ages that are going to be interested in watching something like this. It goes from the teens all the way up to the 60s, because there's just so many like day traders out there right now that would look at something like this and say, man, oh man, would I love to have been back there, living that and just experiencing in the crowd / pit, whatever. And again, I just feel, and then you got from 40 on up where they did live that life. I should say, the ones that worked on the floor that just wish they could go back in time and do it all over. Like I think it capture, several, like, again, the from the Z's all the way up to the millennials to, and again, myself, I'm trying to think what I am. I forget. Oh, the baby. So that's all. Just
not a baby boomer. You're too young to be a baby boomer.
I'm a baby boomer. So yeah, that's all. It's going to attract all ages.
Why I think you're like one of the main things for me is I was reading your script and I was, reading the notes I've taken and everything that I've experienced with my life. What's the comp? Like you're saying, it's going to resonate. I was asking Mike, like what he thinks, like how these people are going to respond to it. And you have your take on, from teens all the way up to 60s. But anybody who, now that industry is now all automated, what's the comp to what we dealt with in an open outcry? Like, I think the attraction to this is that people are going to see something that they don't have a comp to in modern day. Like, what's the comp? Making a TikTok or maybe going to Like
Well,
a concert, maybe?
yeah, I mean, I guess that's the thing. Like, I mean, that's what you've been saying, Daniel. Is that like no one has seen this in a movie yet. And we see Wolf of Wall Street. We see all this. What's the other one? Or just Wall Street. Yeah, like
Wall Street, yeah.
yeah, it's like, I mean, but you didn't see it the way it's written in this script, and it's like, so they're gonna see, yeah, it's like the comp, like said, like concert, just crazy mayhem.
Right.
You got
Like the one
it's
out, like maybe Taylor Swift has it when she
yeah,
goes on stage, or like I know from talking to Zach Bryan, like he's like, there's just nothing like going out there. And but he's like, it's him and his band, like what is there's really no industry. And you had brought up Dark Knight. Like I know a lot of people when they talk about that movie, he goes on to, they make a small scenario where he's on the trading floor and they make it look like he walked into 11 Wall. And
yeah,
I know from where I worked, I was like, that was my entrance. Like I walked into 11 Wall and everybody talked about it. It was
yeah,
like, for us, for where I worked, it was like the hype of the movie. Like, oh my God, did you see that they made it look like 11 Wall? And everybody was so excited about it.
yeah,
It was just, right? Like the amount
yeah,
of that from that entire movie, which everybody loved. It was a small scene in it, and it just made a splash. I think you guys are going to crush it because this is
yeah,
Danny gets it, and you obviously have the foresight to know how to capture that. It's going to be amazing.
What did I say
yeah,
to Mike? I go, there's the one thing that we have to get right. I remember saying this to you
yeah, yeah,
once. We have to get right is the authenticity of the floor scenes.
yeah,
That's all I care about. Just
yeah,
then Mike's like, don't worry about it, man. Don't worry. We'll get that done and blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
You just have to go to dinner with a couple of guys a couple of different times. Just listen to a couple pencils with erasers, maybe, all the
yeah,
ones that Danny and I done together because they're so good.
yeah,
No, I'm serious. Like just sitting down at dinner with these guys, you will capture their personalities and you won't have to ask for anything. They will just give because that you will not find someone who worked down there who loved it. And they just love it so much. It's just,
yeah,
And I told Mike, I go, listen, let's just say we're in Chicago, we're in the middle, of the country. I go, if I go on Facebook, LinkedIn, some social network, and you say, hey, we're filming here, we need extras.
Oh, forget it. You
yeah,
won't have to pay anybody. You won't even,
yeah,
honest to God, you won't even have to bring a catering truck because someone's going to be like, oh, I packed a bunch of sandwiches. I got a cooler and like everything. Right? It's so true.
yeah,
Like it's a family. And if anybody who was fortunate enough to be a family member, they will come in herds. They'll hear it and they'll just want to support their family.
We'll
yeah,
fill the pit up. I don't care if we need the S&P 500 pit or from some equity option that only had 10 guys in the crowd. We're going to be able to fill it with people that actually for in a heartbeat. And
in a heartbeat, you just have to put it out there. They'll come.
One more thing is, whenever, like, again, I saw this so many times, Mike, well, at least on the CBOE, they had a visitors gallery. Okay. So it was glass. Ann had probably worked on the floor that had the most entertainers and movie stars and sports figures ever. And that's the New York Stock Exchange. But here, my point is that I just remember looking at their faces, so going back to what I was saying about like the different ages and going from here to there, 16 to 60, just looking at their faces going, how the fuck do they do that? They're just like staring at us, complete mayhem, and how the hell do they do it? So that's what I want to capture. I want to capture that viewer that I saw again, year after year, looking down on the floor in just complete amazement. I want the same thing when someone looks at the TV or the big screen and say, oh my gosh, how did that happen? And that's what the trading floor scenes are just so important. So the other thing, Mike, I just want to ask you really quick is what's your feeling? I love to hear your opinion again about this space again of the trading floor in the entertainment industry right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not there. So it's like, I mean, I think that's why it'd be so great to tackle it now and be at the forefront. And like you said, like you have so many stories to tell there, and you have all the right people that have their own stories too. That and you can just make this whole universe in the financial world from then all up till now, even if you wanted, but like, especially going back in time, I think there's just like, if you made like a time capsule of just all these films and TV shows, people like, because we just don't see it anywhere. And like people like, we're hearing the stories, like, that's crazy. It's like, but it's one thing to hear, it's gonna be another thing to see it. And like, I mean, yeah. And if you look at these movies in the past, that kind of just touch a little bit on the subject, they always like, everyone always loves them. And because one thing people always love, they love to see, people with money on camera, because like then you visualize yourself in that world and like living that big life. And so we're going to just create this universe for the audience that they're just going to fall in love with, and then the stories are just going to just take them on a wild ride, and it's just going to be one good thing after another. And yeah, so that's I don't know if that answers the question, but like, it's the audience needs it, and like I think that like if you look at the track record, like they love these movies, they always do well, and I think if we tackle it from a very authentic perspective, we're going to just go to the moon with it.
I agree. I again, as of today, nothing's been out, nothing's come out has any, where the floor is the main character, but Mike and I like to be on the forefront of that, bringing it to the big screen. And so I wanted to ask you, can you, you don't have to get into detail, Mike, but let's just say someone listens to this podcast and says, wow, I want to get involved in this. I want to be a investor. What's the process, and what is the, let's just leave it at that. What's the process of if someone came in and just said, I want to fund this movie?
Yeah. I mean, so from there, then we would just kind of, we'd show them the script. Like, yeah, here's the script, here's the cast, here's what we're shooting, and kind of just go over the grand view of it all, and just kind of show them where their money's going, how it's going to get spent, and then we'd show them the projections of how we see it doing, which we can just pull those numbers from previous films and how the market's looking. And then the nice thing with today's world, like there's so many avenues for content to go now. So you have all these streamers and everything. And so the nice thing is, if you have an investor, you can be like, hey, I don't need to take your money until I have somewhere to put this, where I know we can make your money back. And so if you have that commitment from the investor, then you can start packaging the project and start, trying to shop it around town, try to find a home for it, just so that you protect their money before you can sell it, or before you even take their money. And so there's safe ways to do it. Obviously, the riskier, if you make it a little more riskier, then there could be potentially a bigger reward. So it's like, it really depends on, how risky they want to be, and then you can tackle it from that perspective.
So what you're saying is that if we get the, just say, make it a, what's the word I'm trying to think of, a perfect world. There's one investor comes in with the, let's say $5 million. So just so I get this right. So basically what you're saying is that money can stay in his own bank account, or it can go to like an escrow account where it's completely transparent.
Yeah.
You go out and let's just say get one movie star that's attached, and attach it to the script, to the movie. And then what happens again, really quick, you take that out and sell it?
Yeah. So from there, like once you have like the star attached, whatever, you can then be like, that makes it much more interesting to the studios, to the streamers. And so, let's just use Tom Hardy, for example. I said, hey, I got, I have $5 million for a movie. I make an offer to Tom Hardy and said, hey, you want to be in this financial film? He signs on. Great. One of two things could happen. Like right then and there, it's like, great. Well, we have the money, and like we know that he's going to be worth, like, we can sell a movie with him in it for $5 million. Like, we know that money's safe, and we can take the money. We can like run those projections. Like, yeah, we know Netflix would pay this. We know if we just wanted to do our own distribution around the world, it's all 32 territories. We can get the temperature from the distributors there of what they would pay for it. And we can basically just kind of build a spreadsheet and be like, oh yeah, so we have $5 million. We know we'll make this much from all the different territories. We know we can get this much money back. But like the other thing we weren't talking about is tax credits. A lot of movies, utilize tax credits from different states. From Pennsylvania has 25%, New Jersey has 35%, Connecticut has 30%. So like wherever you film it, you just try to find that tax credit. So then that, hey, your $5 million investment, I already know 30% of it's protected from the state tax credit. So there's that. Then I know that these territories are going to pay X amount of dollars for a Tom Hardy movie. That right there in itself might already put you in the black, and then if not, then you're like, okay, well, maybe I need another actor. Maybe I need a female from a younger generation that's going to get a different market, and then that adds more value overseas. And so you can basically just pretty much puzzle piece together it until you can make sure that the money is protected and the investment's protected.
Okay. Okay. And as an independent film company, what's like the ultimate goal?
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate goal, and I mean, also, honestly, like speaking of investment, it's like to have that film fund where you just have the money already, where the investors trust you to oh yeah, we know what Mike and Danny are doing. Like they know the process, they know how to protect our money. We know that they're going to use that money in a way that's going to make us more money. Like ultimately, that's what they want. And so so if we had like a film fund, that would be the game changer, because now we're like, okay, we're going to deploy all this capital into this universe that we know is going to do well. And even if like, hey, like even like the movie doesn't like, well, not to say it's not going to do well, but it's like maybe we got something wrong there, but we can still protect the investment by saying, okay, but before we do go down this road, let's get the right talent attached. Let's do it in the right state for the tax credit. Let's get sales on board so that we know that this fund is going to just keep replenishing itself and just roll over into the next movie. So then whenever, when 12 months is up and like, hey, we want our money back, we'd be like, well, do you want your money back and plus your interest, or do you want to just make money on that now? And we roll it right into the next one. And so that's the ultimate goal, I'd say, is just to have that capital to make the movies the way we want and in a way we know is safe for them to get their money back.
And you've been a line item producer also, right?
Yeah. So like my background is like I did like close to 15 years for accounting on films, from Transformers 3 and 4, all like the most recent ones, Top Gun Maverick. And these are like $200+ million movies. To date, I have all the movies I've worked on, and on a financial side, I've overseen $1.3 billion in financing for films. And of that, I've accounted for like 300 million in tax credits from different various states around the country. So like, I know that stuff inside and out. Like that's how I can do that in my sleep. So now I took that experience and that knowledge and I leveraged that into becoming a line producer, which now you're dealing more with the creative people and the accounting team. And it's like, okay, so I have $5 million. How do I, now as a line producer, the accountant's job is just to account for it. And just say, hey, you're going over budget, you're under budget, we're spending too fast, whatever. That's all that accountant's job is. They're not really responsible to make sure you're on budget, just to tell you if you're going over. Now, as a line producer, that job is to make sure you never go over and that you stick to the schedule, you stick to the budget and protect the money. And so now that's where I've been doing that for the past 5 years. And now from there, I started transitioning into just creative producing and directing. But like, that's as much as I want to just, wear that, creative producer hat and that director hat. Now that I know how money gets spent, like I walk onto a set, I just see dollar signs everywhere. And I just, and so like, so I can't turn it off, which I think that's a good thing, because at the end of the day, like I don't want to waste money on dumb stuff. Like I want to make sure the money is being utilized in the right way, going on camera and making the movie a better movie, and not, paying for, stupid stuff that, some cast or crew, like the crew wants or something that like, like a rap party or something. Like we all like to have a rap party, and if we have money left over, great, we'll do that. But first and foremost, I want to make sure, we're spending money to make the movie as great as possible.
What's a sweet spot, Mike, when it comes to with movie, the foreign investment?
Yeah, I'd say like, from three to 6 million, like that is my sweet spot. Like that's in terms of understanding like how the tax credits work. Or I mean, in terms of protecting the investment, I'd say like, obviously if we want to make the $10-15 million movie, that just gets a little more riskier. But if you're able to do it for like around like 3 to 6 million, like that is a sweet spot where like you already know you're going to get a tax credit's going to take up a third of that. So now you're down to 4 million. Now it's just a matter of finding how to find that $4 million in sales and revenue that way. And that's a lot easier than trying to find 10 to 15 to cover it. So like, especially now with the market, with all the streamers and distributors, it's just a little oversaturated. So I mean, if you're able to pull off a movie on a smaller scale, smaller budget, and you're in a really good position right now, I'd say, because the studios they're losing money on these tentpole films and like these big budget stuff, because people just aren't paying right now because there's too many free things they can watch. But like, so now that's the target. It's like, how do I get on the free platforms like the Netflix, the Hulus, and the streaming, because that's where all the eyeballs are going. Well, to do that, like, yeah, you have the right script, the right cast, and everything, but like they're not going to pay a ton of money for, they'll invest a lot of money in their own projects, but if they're looking to buy your project, unless it's got like, unless it's got like, the Tom Hardy in it in a big action movie or something, then they might pay the big bucks. But they're looking for, the smaller budget film, like 5 to 10 or something like that. So I know between 3 and 6, that's a really good sweet spot where I know I can deliver every time.
Okay, great. Awesome.
There's so many details that you have to pay attention to, and you have your finger on the pulse of every single one of them.
You do.
Yeah. Because I kind of wore a lot of different hats made my way to being a director, and so I mean, it was very unconventional to come from accounting, but I mean, I did it and it worked. So I definitely have seen a lot more sides, I think, of it, outside the creative side that kind of influence how I am as a producer, at least, and then even as a director, it kind of like, at the end of the day, it's a business, and we have to make sure the investors get their money back. And so I'll do it as creative as I can, but at the end of the day, I still know I have to deliver financially for these guys as well as creatively for the audience.
And
wow. That's just so impressive. I'm sorry.
We're coming up to the hour. I was just gonna Ann and I usually end the podcast like for a plug or whatever with everyone. So what are you working on now, Mike? Anything specific? Are you producing, directing right now at this very moment?
No, so we just wrapped 3 or 4 weeks ago I was producing 2 films that were filmed simultaneously. One was in New Jersey, one was in Connecticut. So like 3 hours apart. So just going back and forth between the two. But so that was a little hectic, but a lot of fun. And so those movies, those are really cool. One's called Stranglehold, that's being written and directed by Clark Duke, and it has Justin Long, Ron Jeremy, Jake Lacey, and Ashley Benson in it. So it's got like an all-star cast. And it's a really fun little heist action comedy movie that's all set in a strip club, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm excited for that one to come out. And then this other one we're doing in Connecticut, it's called Midnight, and that has Rosario Dawson in it, and Mila Djokovic, and Alexander Shipp. And it's just a really like fun little thriller that, it's unexpected, but it's going to be really good. I'm excited to get that out.
So now where can people watch them? Are they Netflix?
Well, we literally just finished. So, I mean, they won't come out till next year sometime. So we're not even sure yet.
So there could be a whole bunch of new platforms by then, right?
Yeah, exactly. We might all be watching Tubi at that point. Who knows?
I think this is so impressive. And it's, what's nice is that you've met so many people. You've been doing this for so long, and you're just such a nice guy. Like you don't have a chip on your shoulder. Like it's refreshing to see that.
Well, I mean, I think, I definitely, I grew up out in the country. I always had to work hard, and I had to work hard to get to where I am. And I feel every day I'm still working hard just to get the next one. So it's like, I don't take anything for granted. And I'm just so grateful for everything I've got to do so far. And hopefully it continues. And so I just don't want to, burn any bridges, and just make sure I surround myself with good people and just treat them right, like the way they treat me.
That's so great. One of the questions we always ask at the end of our podcast is, would you do it again? And it seems like, and you're nowhere near there. Like you have like honest to God, you have another 50 years to go before you can even answer that question.
Yeah. Well, that's funny, because my dad's always like, you saving up for retirement? You worry about that? I'm like, I'm never retiring. Like I'll die on set. That's my goal.
Honestly,
hopefully of old age.
You absolutely love what you do, and it radiates through everything that you say, whether you're speaking about, whether it's financial conversation or creative, or it's so nice to see somebody who like the fact that you can make a living off of what you love doing. That's you found the American dream and the pot of gold all at the same time. Good for you.
Yeah, I really have. I'm still waiting to wake up.
Well, Mike, it's not that I hope, I know it's going to happen, but I hope that, again, you and I can pull this off, getting this movie and making some history here. And, but really just having fun. Like you said, fun is just really important, at least with myself. I'm quite a few years older than you. You're up to the second bend of life. I've already gone around the fourth. So I just want to have fun doing this, and these podcasts with Ann and my other co-partner or co-host, whatever you want to call him, Mark. We just have a ball doing these. So, but yeah.
I have to ask, if somebody wants to reach out to you guys to invest, I mean, they could always reach out to me on any platform and I'll put them in touch with you. But what would be the best way for somebody who wants to invest in what you guys are doing? What would be the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, Danny, I know you have you have like the website and everything up.
Yep. I got the website. I'll share that right now. www.mogatormediacapital.com. And in the upper right-hand corner, it says more, and then you just go down to invest, and there's a form that takes less than 5 seconds to fill out. Mike, should we just leave it at that? Do you want to leave your Gmail account, or would you rather not? It's up to you.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm fine. Yeah, I can give you a link, or how do you, yeah, it's like, it's just, I mean, yeah, you can find me on IMDb too. It's like MikeDay86@gmail.com.
Mike Day86 at Gmail.
Mike Day.
Yeah, Mike Day. Oh, I think you said, is it 86? Mike Day.
Yeah, 86. Yeah.
Day86@gmail.com. So, thank you, Ann, for bringing that up. I didn't even think.
Oh yeah, I think, honest to God, I think if anybody who wants to be a part of, has ever had any interest in being a part of the movie industry, this would be a great opportunity for them to invest in, because I truly think you guys have, honestly, you have a great product that you're going to be putting out. The script is fantastic. And I think all the characters are just so relatable. And so you really get emotionally invested with what's happening. And I think, Mike, I think your work is outstanding. So I think you guys are going to have a nice relationship going forward with this.
Oops.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. So I'm excited.
Okay, Mike, thank you so much for coming on, and I'll be in touch.
Yeah.
No, really, thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a blast. This is a lot of fun. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
See you,
Bye.
Ann.